Okay, wow. Notes. Look at all the
just
notes.
to make sure I don't forget.
Let's do it. Welcome to the Sports Hangover. I'm Michael Benatar, and today is a very, very special day. We have our picks pod, and Josh Covitt, sorry, say I was getting it wrong, is on the pod today. You are not only a great gambler lately, soon to be dad, and maybe one of my most famous friends, a great actor as well. Thank you for joining the pod.
That's amazing. What an intro. Yeah. Maybe your most famous friend, but also like painfully anonymous.
But
even
you know
though
what?
even
That's the best.
even though odds are maybe anyone listening to this has probably seen me in a commercial or something else. But yeah, that's funny. I never think of myself as famous. What an intro. Soon to be dad. I love it.
Yeah.
Gambler and soon to be a father. Just not
best combo.
And a couple things right away.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on the pod. I'm so excited. I thought I was going to get an invite, I guess 2.5 weeks ago when I was number one.
Yeah.
I've precipitously fallen off a cliff since then. Part of it is getting ready for baby, being super distracted. Last week, my worst week, just full disclosure, so the audience knows and they can turn this off if they want.
Sure.
Was my 1-4 week, right? That was the rock bottom week.
You need those weeks.
By the way, crazy week all around, which I'm sure we'll touch on.
Yeah.
1-4. I was actually in Vegas.
Oh.
I went and saw U2 at the Sphere.
Okay.
So aside from all my other distractions, it was incredible. Yeah, one of the best shows I've ever done. The way they
how much did you put out for those tickets? Because I was looking, they were like $1,000.
Right. Well, I am a unabashed massive U2 fan, so I was in the pre-sale group. And so our seats, you tell them which sections you're willing to get tickets on, and they just assign them to you.
Oh.
So we basically picked 2 levels. We were in the back, the nosebleeds, but it's not with that space. It doesn't matter. Like you actually have a better view. So our tickets, I think the tickets were like $140.
Oh, wow, that's
so
good.
Yeah. So when I was listening to someone else on a podcast say like they dropped $2,000 on it, I was like, whew, buddy.
Yeah.
You gotta sign up for these pre-sales.
They looked great. I mean, the Sphere is definitely something I want to check out. Did the outside do anything while you were like going in? Like, did they play anything?
While we were going in, they were doing U2 sort of, paraphernalia on the outside. Same when you left. And then I think it just went back to ads. I'm guessing it's probably a thing where it's like, 2 hours before the show starts to, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour after it ends. It's the event. And then it goes back to just like emojis or whatever ads people are paying $500,000 for. So Vegas distracted me, and of course I was a big loser. Like it was sort of a perfect metaphor for the weekend in that like all my bets failed.
Yeah.
The one success was the show, which was the least expensive thing I did in Vegas, and it was truly mind-blowing. But yeah, my 1-4 week coincided with that. And also I was traveling with my buddy who was knee deep on all the football stuff, and I was like, oh crap, I got to do my picks. And I listen to him. This is why you don't listen to other people, as I say on your podcast. It's a great podcast, but don't listen to like if you know what you look for in gambling or sports or whatever, just stick to it. If you're learning and you need to make a system, great, collect advice. But otherwise, don't. Can I swear?
Yeah, go for it.
Don't fucking listen to other people. This is my buddy who's like, the Jets, actually the Eagles. He's like, the Jets, all these guys are out. You should. I was like, oh, okay. Had no idea.
Yeah,
took the horrible points line on the Bills because it was just a quick conversation of they're angry. But I was like, wait a minute, Tyrod Taylor, Brian Daboll, like this stuff matters to teams and players, and you get this stupid line. So I could have easily been 3-2, which is what every deadbeat gambler says.
Of course,
after 1-4 week, but that was it. And I've been yammering on, but I just want to say I love the podcast. I love you.
Of course,
as an individual and friend. I love your podcast. You and J-Dog, you guys, I mean this, you have fantastic podcast voices.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been 13 years we've been doing it, so it's a lot of back and forth.
So whatever you've done, because I gotta say there are some very annoying sounding voices in the sports talk sphere.
Of course, yeah. You gotta have a unique voice out there.
And part of that is I think other people don't. The Ringer, cough cough, like I could listen to you guys talk about sports, talk about just all day. It's just
I
beautiful.
love it.
I
All
hope
right.
I'm not bringing down the quality of the audio on
No,
the
no,
cast, but
no.
you guys are wonderful pod.
We're ready. I'm glad you're on the pod this week. And we've been talking about our super contest. So we're in the super contest. You can call it whatever. Circa does one called Millions. You pick a lot of games against the spread, 5 games against the spread every week. They do this in Vegas. I think multiple places in Vegas do it now. I think even Golden Nugget does it. But that's what we've been talking about. You're in the league. I'm trying to bring a lot of people on that have been doing really well. You were doing really well. Obviously, you had a bad week last week. Not a big deal. And that's the thing. It's okay. It is a long season. You're still in the running. You're like,
I'm
you're
4
only
back. I'm
you're
4 back
four out
from
of
first place.
first, which is wild. That we're doing all so well. We're all doing way, way too good. But I wanted to know how you go about picking it. Minus last week when you're talking to your friend and you were in Vegas too. You could have your like ear on the ground to some real gamblers out there, maybe. But what do
Maybe,
you?
but you can't find. I mean, it was a way. By the way, it was. I learned on the way out that it was
Yeah.
college week in
Oh,
Vegas this week. So that's why we were walking around all week. We're like, this is maybe the worst vibe I've ever felt in Vegas. Not that it's like a crazy classy place,
yeah.
but I was like, I don't even know if I ever want to come back here again. And then now that it was learning it was college week, no disrespect to anyone in college. I'm a big fan of higher education, but you're also super annoying and scantily clad walking the streets of Vegas, throwing up on each
Yeah.
other, et cetera, et cetera.
That's how Vegas is. You leave and you're like, I'm never going back. And 6 months goes by and you kind of forget. You're like, well, it was kind of fun last time.
Yeah,
Minus
yeah.
this. Yeah.
My
Yeah.
first time on the boots on the ground since the pandemic, so
Oh, wow.
it's been a
Okay.
while. But like 5 years almost.
Lots changed. New casinos, a lot of new stuff. They're repaving. It's been a mess
Different.
the
They're setting
last
up
few
that
years.
F1 race. That's gonna be
Yeah.
crazy. That's gonna be like a video game in
I know.
November.
I don't think anybody in Vegas is happy about what they're doing out there either. Because
No.
it's always
Also,
traffic. There's traffic
always
everywhere.
traffic. And after this weekend, again, I know it's a knee jerk overreaction, but I was like, this city does not need an NBA team. They should not have an NBA. Like, it's going to get even worse if you put another
Honestly,
sports team
though,
there.
those events out there, like I went to a Vegas Knights game, one of the best sporting events I've ever been to. People in Vegas love it's passion. They're just
Yeah,
passionate
you might
because
be right.
they love their team and they're also gambling on them. Like
They
you
love,
can gamble
yeah,
right there, which is
yeah. No, you
best of
might be
both
right.
world. Yeah.
Maybe it's when you're in the event or walking right up to it. It's great. It's like everything surrounding it. Just
Yeah. It's a
burn it
lot.
down. Burn
It's
it
a
down.
lot to handle. All right, so tell me like your thought process. Obviously, we're going this week. We'll talk about a few games. I have a few games I've pinpointed. I know you have a few as well, but I want to know like what you're doing to prepare to pick because right now we had our friend Greg on last week, our lawyer friend. No strategy,
Yeah,
just vibes, just
yeah.
going by
Just
vibes. So I
vibes.
wanted to see
How did
maybe.
Greg do last week? Did he win?
He did great.
He did great.
4-1. So
4
vibes are
and 1.
working. Yeah.
Vibes work, baby.
Vibes are working. He is 3 out of first place.
Okay.
It's
You and
just
I are
been a
tied.
yeah.
That's the other thing is if I don't win, I want to tie or beat you.
Yes, I
As
mean,
a
yeah,
as
that's and
a
I feel a lot of pressure too because I feel like it's like my like league I put together, and I feel so much pressure. It's like, oh damn, I
yeah,
got to do good this week.
and you're up top. Nothing against J Dog. Again, love
Yeah,
him on the pod, but like he's
yeah,
kind of already washed. Like, right, he's so far at the bottom that
yeah,
now he can't lose because he's either gonna be jokingly competing for the
yeah,
booby prize. He could do a quarterly win. Or if he somehow climbs and he ends up in like the top 5 or 6, everyone's gonna be like, what a comeback story.
yeah.
He knows. So you sort of
But the week,
shot yourself in the foot by coming out of the gate. But
even though
you,
like, all right, so
yeah.
where J Dog is right now, he's 13-17. No matter what, he still has a shot at it because everybody could go like last week. A lot of like it kind of stabilized a little bit. A lot more
Oh,
people are together.
the Niners, the Eagles, those were
Yeah,
crushing.
yeah,
I mean that really rocked the world. Which
yeah,
leading into picks. So
yeah.
I
Tell me
here's the
your
thing.
vibes.
So you and I are the same. I was texting you about this.
Yeah,
We both hate fantasy football.
yep, yeah.
Um, the only thing I don't like about doing this pool is I find myself a little bit in the fantasy space where I'm like crunching news, as we get
Sure, yeah,
later
yeah.
in the
You
week.
gotta know, but it's
It's
broad. It's
it's
broad. It's
broad.
not
It's
just player
broad.
news.
That's
Yeah,
the thing is fantasy sucks. I love football. You can probably tell from my broad shoulders. I played it in high school, everyone. I love it. It's my favorite sport.
yeah,
So as they say, I feel like I know ball. Like I get mad at people on Twitter when they're like overreacting to like plays like I love that football's so popular, but a lot of people don't even like. There's people who play fantasy that don't. They
Yeah.
don't even like football. They never played. It's baffling to me.
Well, they don't even watch. They
They
just
don't
play
even watch.
fantasy. Yeah.
Right. You're
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
just going off like tickers or whatever. So a lot of my strategy, I'm not going to call it vibes, but I'm going to call it
Sure.
like deep sport appreciation, right?
Okay.
Like understanding all the
Another word for
rules.
vibes. Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it though? Well, it's like you gotta. So it's like understanding rules and understanding things that um that mesh with what you guys talk about. You talk about like fading the public, right?
Yeah.
So great example this week. I
Mhm.
don't know the Niners. It was I didn't think it would be that close. We had some slip ups, but like you look at that game and you go. I mean, the actual line, like our
Yeah.
line was locked on Tuesday, but the
Yeah.
actual line I think was like 10 points maybe by the time the game started
Last week.
last week.
Yeah. It climbed
So
and
you look at a
climbed.
line like that and it's like, don't bet that. Are you kidding me? Like the Niners just came off this massive win where they embarrassed a rival. It's a rainy game,
Yeah.
right? It's a rainy game and the Niners as good as McCaffrey is, this is where understanding football I think helps a
Wait,
gambler. You go,
did you play the Browns last week or did you play
no, I
San
played
Fran?
the Niners because ours was locked at 3.5. But I'm talking about the real. I'm talking about
Yeah.
if you were betting on Sunday when it was
Sure.
10 points. It's
Yeah.
like, no. There were places in Vegas, sportsbook in Vegas that just took it off their
Oh,
parlays because they were like,
really?
this is disastrous. We've killed ourselves with this line. Um, no. So with 4 points, I would have taken the Niners, right?
Yeah.
But like what I'm saying is there's that kind of thing. Like you and I talked about with the Giants, Bills. Again, I was so distracted, but like you're talking about a team that has been embarrassed playing in state, right?
Mhm.
Against their former team, the quarterback and the offensive coordinator. So 15 points, whatever. Hindsight is perfect. So, but it's
Sure.
like
Yeah.
I look at those things like that. I obviously look at like matchups, but you we saw it last week. We've been seeing it now the last 2 or 3 weeks, the any given Sunday model.
Yeah.
And so now what I do, now that we're in this adjustment period, is like now I look at lines, like most of these lines this week, it's just Vegas saying, we don't have a fucking clue either. Just pick a winner,
Yeah.
right? Like you're seeing all these like 1.5, two, like all these games that are like between 1.5 and 3 points, which is Vegas just saying we're picking one side, but flip a coin, right?
It's tough too because I think as the lines get sharper, right? They're getting a little
Yeah,
tighter. Like, this week our lines are on Indy and Cleveland. It's 2.5.
right.
Indy is a dog at home. And that's a weird one. When you saw Cleveland just beat San Francisco, you're thinking, oh, well, is Cleveland the right play? Like, are they that much better? And
Yeah,
that's where it becomes a game against, Vegas, I guess, but also about how much they're also adjusting. Cause I think it's about the adjustment period too, right?
yes,
Where Vegas isn't going to overact. We shouldn't overreact, but we
right.
see these games where San Francisco loses to Cleveland, and you're like, well, is San Francisco that good? Should I take Minnesota this
Right.
week? Like, there's a lot
And
of thoughts going through my head.
that's why you have to. So my favorite weeks to bet when and I only do a little. I'm not as deep in it. I don't have an
Sure.
algorithm. I don't have a wall. If this video is playing, Michael's got his background is blurred because you can't tell, but there's a massive server, a
I
supercomputer
wish. I wish.
crunching. You guys think Bitcoin creates a lot of electrical
Yeah,
carbon footprint. Like the server, Michael's whole house is basically a server. That's why he put in a
I wish.
fan.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah, it's
crunching
getting
all the
hot in here.
numbers.
Yeah, the servers, the
Yeah.
supercomputer crunching numbers. Yeah.
You can't, and I will say a couple weeks ago when I had my first sub 3 week, I looked back on it. You got to do the homework, you got to evaluate yourself. And what I
Sure.
did is I did a little bit of, oh, this team lost last week. They're not.
Mm-hmm.
What you have to do is you have to look at it long view, right? You have to be sort of holistic, I think, which is why like my favorite weeks to bet are like week 2 and week 3 and wild card weekend in
Okay.
football.
All right. Okay.
I'm not, anything can change, but like I usually do pretty well in wild card weekend because season is over and barring weird things, you kind of know what you're getting. So sometimes those lines they
Yeah.
kind of reset and you're like, there's no surprises at this point. Like, and if you're looking at a team like, yeah, they're hosting a home playoff game, but like I don't know if they're really right. You can kind of work backwards through the whole season, but week 1 is an absolute dog shit.
Yeah.
Like
Well, that
it's
line
fun.
also Yeah, that line's posted, 2 months, 3 months in advance
Yeah,
when the schedules come out too. So
right.
you're
So
like, all right,
it's
what do we
kind of
got here?
fun. Yeah, it's like that's pure gambling. And week 17 is the worst week, which is also why fantasy sucks because if you're in
Yeah.
a league where you have playoffs or sorry, week 18, if you're in a league where you're playing the last week of the season, like it's a joke. Like
I know.
uh so there's a little bit of that. And then like you were saying, I didn't mention this, but like the fade the public, you also have to be wary of the sports ecosystem, right? So that's how you get caught up in these narratives of like, oh, this is a bad team. Like the Jets being within 3 of the Chiefs is not that surprising if you jettison all, no pun intended, if you jettison all the stupid like ESPN type stuff
The
about, well, the
narrative.
Chiefs are
Yeah.
the Super Bowl champs, the Jets are bad, and it's like the Jets are, but they're kind of, it's a little bit of this thing, right? Or like same thing with, I know the Cowboys won on Monday, but their offense is not very good. But
Hmm.
you still hear people talk about their offense, and like the offense has scored 20 points against the Chargers with like a crazy fluke 60-yard play, right? And then they scored 24 points against the Giants in week 1. Every other game, all those points
Yeah.
are defensive scores. They're defense or special teams or like short fields because of the defense. But everyone's like, oh, the offense. So I try to stay away from getting too much into data and being like more of a realist of like what's going on, uh,
Well,
what is true in the league, and yeah, and remembering the any given Sunday, especially if you can take advantage of some of the like exaggerated lines that are
well,
they're
yeah.
getting smaller and smaller now.
There's a lot too. Like Action Network put out this thing called the NFL luck rating, like
Hmm.
just lucky things that happen. And
Yeah.
Cowboys are right up there. They're I think like the sixth most luckiest team.
Woo. Who's the
So
luckiest? Chiefs.
luckiest are Vikings still.
What?
I think.
Still?
I don't know if this is actually. Hold on.
That
This
has
is
to be last year because the
yeah.
Vikings were
Hold on.
super lucky last year.
They were very lucky last year. Oh, here we go. Week 7 luck rankings. Number 1 is Steelers.
Interesting.
Yeah, Cowboys
Yeah,
actually 13th on this with
okay.
2% of luck. Steelers have 38% luck and Bengals have
Ooh,
18. A lot of
okay.
luck. So there's all
Yeah.
these like a lot of data you can put in there. A lot of things go into it. But yeah, it's just more understanding football, going into it and figuring out, okay, where am I going this week? And I feel like I use too much data. I look at where the money's going, where
I
the
know
public
you
money's going,
you
too
watch the
much.
flows. Well, speaking of Steelers and luck, maybe we should jump in. This is like a half circle for me, but I'm
Sure.
just guessing. I'm guessing you like you like the Rams at home
I do.
against the Steelers.
Well, I
And I
have
know that because I know you're a big Rams guy. You have the McVay conspiracy that he always covers, even though he doesn't. But
he
I get what you're saying.
he didn't know about it, but sure,
You
yeah.
didn't know, yeah. And then first half last week, I was thinking about you. I was like, I can't believe Michael's on the Rams, and like, look at this, they're losing at home to the
I know.
Cardinals. Those feisty, you insulted Josh Dobbs, and he's gonna
I
make
know.
you pay again. But
He's good, but he's definitely slowing down a little bit. But yeah,
yeah,
I see value on the Rams this week. Like so we have like I wouldn't call it a model. I would call it, our power
vibes,
rankings. Yeah, a
vibes,
lot of vibes. Our power rankings mixed with home field advantage and trying to shoot out what we think the line should be. So
right?
we think the line should be Rams -6 at home. We're in our contest, we have Rams -2.5. So the
Mm-mm.
value
You're getting
on the
three and a
Rams.
half points, or is it two? No, two. I see 3.5 on the line here.
Oh, is it 3.5 in the
Yeah,
contest?
I don't know
Oh,
if that
okay.
changes your model, but you're only getting two
Oh,
and a
yeah,
half
that
points.
might change it. Hold on, let
And
me see here.
also, I'll just tell you this as someone who goes to
That
Charger
is
games
true.
a lot, that is not gonna be a Rams home game. That is
No,
a
no.
Steelers home game. That is a Steelers home game,
Yeah.
big time.
Yeah, Steelers, they travel well, but like I don't think this is gonna make it on my sheet this
Mhm.
week. I am a little nervous. Pittsburgh's coming off a bye. There's a lot of
They're
stats and
coming off a
trends
bye, that's
about Tomlin. Yeah, there's a lot. But
yeah.
they've seen a little flat. Like last week, who came off by last week? I think it was Seattle came off by. They could have
Oof.
scored like
Stunk.
9 times in the end zone,
Chargers
but they
came off
didn't.
a bye, looked great their first 2 drives, and then realized, "Oh, we didn't practice any other plays last week."
I know. Yeah, I forgot what we're doing here.
Yeah. Oh, wait, we're
What
supposed to keep scoring.
So, all right, tell me a game you're eyeing that you're kind of looking at, that you're feeling for the contest this week.
Okay, yeah. Well, I guess okay.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm gonna save my emotional, fun one. I'll save that for a little bit later. So
Okay.
I'm really interested, though. I'm
Yeah.
interested, and I agree with you. Thursday night games are junk, but
Yes.
as the season goes on, and you're getting a better view of the world, even though Thursday night is so, stay away. Like
Yeah.
even the Broncos almost. I mean, they should have, but friggin'
They should
Russ,
have covered. Yeah. It
they
was
should have covered,
11.
and that
Yeah.
would have wiped out. I mean, there was like 15 people picked the Chiefs. Like they couldn't
I know.
resist it.
They're not
I'm really
gamblers, but
I'm really
yes.
interested in this one too, because I think like even though it's Thursday night, New Orleans has got a defense, right? You're
Yeah.
looking at a team that's uh good at home, right? They got a defense.
Yeah.
They got embarrassed last week, and then I have to wait for the news, and our lines are locked. So if you're a
Yeah.
real gambler, this will change. But like,
It didn't
if
change
Trevor
much.
Lawrence, if Trevor Lawrence doesn't play,
Yeah.
I'm like, if I like, that's one where I'm like, I might have to get in on a Thursday night game and pick New Orleans, because that's a favorable matchup. Like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
I agree.
nothing against isn't Mullins the backup?
I don't know who the
I think
backup
it's
is
Nick
there.
Mullins, and I was like, nothing against him. He's played well, but like that is a real man's defense on the other side of the ball on the Saints. And
Yeah.
it's a short week. I don't and by the way, this is the other thing that you kind of have to look at least for
Yeah.
like I do in some other emotional way. It's a what is it? Intra opposite conference game.
Okay.
So
Okay. Wait,
a
so you
loss.
look at NFC versus AFC? Is this a
I'm,
thing, a stat?
I think you do. You have to look at it in the context of divisional games, right? Jacksonville
Okay.
just smoked the Colts.
Yep.
They're up in the division. They have the inside track for their division. These are games against a non-conference opponent that are prime for letdowns. Like you don't get up. Teams do not get up for opposite conference
Yeah.
matchups unless it's
Well,
just not a thing.
I
I
mean,
mean, it's
you still want to play well, but I think the division matchups are usually tighter games because they know each other a little better.
I usually
But,
stay away from division games.
I
If
like
I can't,
division games.
I like to stay away. Certain divisions I do not I stay away from AFC North games,
Oh,
because
wow.
as bad as any of those teams could be, it could always be a field goal, right?
Sure.
Or
Yeah.
the worst team could win. We've seen that a couple times already, right?
Lots of games like
Um,
that. Yeah.
and NFC West.
Wow.
Keep
No
me
NFC West.
I hate the NFC West. Like,
Wow.
are you kidding? Any Seahawks Rams game?
No, not
Run
in on it.
run to the hills. I mean, you're a Seahawks fan. You
Yeah.
tell like remember when the Seahawks were good and the Rams were terrible?
Yeah.
How many times did the Seahawks still beat the Rams? Or I'm
They
sorry, the
couldn't
other way
know.
around. The Rams. The Rams would still beat the Seahawks. The Seahawks would
Yeah.
be coming off like the Seahawks would be like, "Oh, we went to the Super Bowl last year," and the Rams would beat them 12-9. I mean,
Yeah.
it's and
That's
what's
how it
crazy
goes.
is this stuff just doesn't go away. That's what I think is wild. The Chargers are so much better than the Raiders and the Broncos, even with their Chargerness, but
Yeah.
they're never going to beat either of those teams by more than one score. Like it just
Yeah.
won't happen.
That's how it is. Well, I listen, Thursday night games are weird. Weird stuff happens. I don't think Lawrence is going to play. I also agree that New Orleans should be the play, but it is hard.
It's
It's
hard to
hard
do
to
a
do it.
Thursday night, just
There's
in general.
so many things that could go wrong, like planning. I know Jacksonville, it's not a far ride over to New Orleans, but it's a scary.
They're always
Jacksonville's been
scary.
traveling. I
They're
know.
always scary. Thursday night games are always scary.
I hate it.
I agree with you on that. I hate it. I think it's a garbage product. I think the NFL should not be doing it because it's not good for players. Players don't like it.
No.
And this year's been different, but I sort of tracked over the last 2 years. Teams that play Thursday night
Yeah.
historically have horrible games the next week. It's been up and
Hmm.
down this year. It hasn't been that much of it, but like there is like the mini buy is not actually that helpful for teams.
Interesting. So you're saying like Kansas City this week's going to have a slower week. Kansas City played last week, right?
Kansas City and Denver, yeah, they were on Thursday night last
Oh,
week.
okay. Interesting. I haven't
Yeah,
looked at
Travis
any.
Kelce's been partying, been holding hands. Do you think he held hands finally with Taylor Swift?
He definitely did. He's been drinking. Listen, when I saw the Atlanta coach in London drinking, I knew I had to fade the Atlanta coach. I do not want my athletes
That was
drinking.
so funny. Yeah, vibes. I mean, I picked that game too. I picked Jacksonville because that's basically their home.
At this point, yeah. It's
At this
basically
point,
their
yeah.
home field.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
it's like,
So,
yeah.
so you're on New Orleans, maybe on New Orleans.
I think
you
I'm
like
maybe on
it.
New Orleans. Yeah.
Here's a bad game that I feel like I have to play. Like this is
Okay.
a
Oh, I like
gross
this.
game.
Yeah. Which one?
So Vegas at Chicago,
Yes.
both backup QBs. two
Right.
backup QBs. I think the
Right.
rookie for Vegas is playing. He was a little feisty that one week I saw him play.
Yeah, yeah.
He was feisty. Chicago. I don't know who the backup is. I can't name him. I did just pick him up in a fantasy league because I had Justin
Isn't
Fields.
he like
So
an undrafted? It's yeah.
was he? Is he the arm wrestling champ? Because I know there's an arm wrestling champ backup. I just don't know
Man,
which team
I
that
don't.
was. There
That's the
was a
funny thing is backups like idiosyncratic honors travel better than their player reputation, right? Like remember Mason Hodges, where they're like, he's a duck calling champion.
It is. It is.
Yeah, of
So
course.
Tyson Bagnet is
Yeah.
a arm wrestling champion, and he will
Okay.
be the QB for the Chicago Bears.
Mm.
I just feel like Raiders are pretty bad.
They're both bad teams. Both of these teams are bad.
Jimmy G can't make a play. He's not playing. The backup, two rookie QBs. I feel like Chicago has like talent on their team, but just can't utilize it well. So that's the only
Yeah.
why I'm like leaning that way. And I feel like everybody will be on Vegas. Like from the numbers I'm seeing, it
Right.
looks like everybody wants to bet them or just stay away from this game in total. But like 74% of the money right now is on the Raiders. And it makes me think like, oh, well, Chicago, like, what's worse? Like Justin Fields, like backup can't be that much worse if he can throw the ball. Like,
yeah, maybe. I mean, and then I think and then this is where I look at it too. And like, you got to come back to the real world. I looked at that game too. I don't know if I want to, because again, two horrible teams, anything could happen. That game could be 9-6 or it could be 42-38. Like it's just, or one team could go off. It's hard to say, but it's also in Chicago. We're now in fall. I would advise anyone check the weather.
Yeah.
Check the weather. Although another little tidbit, right? It's the backup, I believe, played at Purdue. So the Raiders QB does have experience in bad Midwest weather. I don't know. And then you got to look at like the Bears offensive line, which I don't know much about, but like
I don't either.
Max Crosby chasing a rookie quarterback. I can see why people are betting on Vegas.
I trust Vegas. It's like when I see the hook, the 3.5, it's like, oh, well, that they're making it easier for me to decide which side I want to be on this game. But yeah, this is a scary game, but I feel like this is a game I have to play to get the advantage in the league, in the contest, right? It's
right,
like,
because other people will be playing.
They might be playing Raiders, or so like,
right, which is a bit on the Thursday night tip for me, even though that might be more popular. But that's why I'm like, this is not a popular game. People are going to be doing. Agree.
You can tell too. Like last week, I think like 18 out of 23 people had San Francisco last week, and one person had the Browns, and it's like, we're all idiots. We just all followed. Oh yeah, San Francisco's
but
good.
The person
like,
on the Browns is also like in the bottom of the league, so they were swinging. They were like, I got to be a contrarian.
I know it worked.
I got to start making up grounds in it. It totally worked.
He got it. What other game do you like this week?
Well, should I just jump to? I don't want because we're almost at 30. I'm just going to jump right to the crazy game.
Okay.
That is going to make it. Look, it's an emotional. There's everything right and everything wrong with it all at once, which makes it perfect.
Okay.
So the other thing I do this year that has helped me a little bit is I will occasionally do an emotional hedge.
Okay.
So week 2, I picked the Titans to cover against the Chargers, knowing it was probably going to be a close game, but also like, well, I'm from San Diego. I live in Los Angeles. The team has followed me. So, of course, I'm still a fan. If the Chargers had
the
lost,
only fan,
which, by the way, go on Chargers Twitter. If you think the Chargers don't have fans, like go online and look at how passionate they want to burn it all down. And that even though it's negative attention, it's still fandom. So,
no one goes to the games, but you guys are here.
The fans, but also, I mean, I'm like, am I a part of a toxic fan base? Like, I kind of can't stand you guys. Anyway, I'll do emotional hedges. So that's why I picked the Raiders in week 3, and the Raiders almost covered. And I would have been the only person against everyone because I'm like, look, it's close game, divisional games. A lot of people picked the Chargers. You picked the Chargers, which I was surprised by because I've heard you
not
say
a fan
out loud
of the
about
Chargers.
there. But anyway, they almost came back, right? Goal line stop. Because I think that line was 5.5 points, or it was more than a field goal, right? Less than a touchdown, more than a field goal. And I was like, eh. And then again, the emotional hedge. So if the Raiders did pull it off, at least I feel good that I picked them in the pool. So I know that's not smart gambling or whatever, but it's for the heart. Now, this is the week it all comes together. And
Okay.
again, unabashed Chargers homer. But this is to me, and I was kind of like, I'm like, I don't know if I should say this because I don't want to sway anyone, but I know everyone's gonna be picking Kansas City. You have such a national narrative right now of Chargers are choke artists, which they are historically.
Yep.
It's a short week. The Kansas City Chiefs have the long week. Like all these things on paper, which usually result in the game not being what you thought it was going to be coming out, right? This is the perfect game for the Chargers, not only to cover, but to win. I don't know if I would bet them to win, but I'm
Not to win.
absolutely betting them. I'm absolutely 5.5 points. They're absolutely, they're going to come out so fucking on fire. And if you hate Brandon Staley or whatever, for you stat heads, know this: in Kansas City
He
is
loves
the
going
only
on fourth down.
place Brandon Staley has a road division win. Is the
Oh, okay.
only place.
Interesting.
And last year they lost by 4 with that crazy pick six. The Chargers always play the Chiefs within 3 points or fucking
Division. Yeah.
overtime. So
Yeah.
unless you are certain that it's going to overtime and they're going to win with a walk-off Kelsey touchdown or something like that, I'm absolutely betting the Chargers on this. Again, I don't want to be giving out secrets to the pool. Like you can hear me emotional, but like I will just put my stamp down. I'm just making it easy. I don't need to think about this. Kansas City by 6. I'm absolutely taking the Chargers. Like these guys are so fucking upset. They're sick of Kansas City. They always play them within 3 points. Go look at the scores. Like they do not lose to Kansas City
it's a division
by more than the
matchup.
score.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the perfect game to make up ground on and be a contrarian. That being said, the Chiefs could blow them out, but here's the thing. The Chiefs offense it's not good this year. Like I don't know, that's the other thing is everyone thinks like, "Oh, Chiefs, Mahomes, that is not a good offense."
No, but they make plays happen. I also agree. I like the Chargers. I have them kind of highlighted here. I do see value on Kansas City. They're at home. I know this is the division game, but on my little model, saying they should be 8-point favorites. We're at 5.5. So it's like, oh well, we have a little value here. They could win by
The Chiefs
6.
have not beaten the Chargers by 8 points in over 3 years.
I do think
this team is the best. Again, I'm a homer, but these are facts as well. The Chargers are it's like these are the teams that have actually, like the Bills and the Bengals will beat Kansas City, right? Bengals in the playoffs, Bills in the regular season. Those are the marquee games, but go back and look at every game the Chiefs and the Chargers have played since Herbert and then Staley have been there. They're all 3 to 4 point games.
What do you think about Herbert though? Like, do you not think that game is going to be in his head a little bit? Because I feel like there are opportunities for him to win the game or at least get close to winning the game, and he couldn't make the passes. He was like,
which is why I think he's going to come out. Like, remember the Dolphins game, right? Where Herbert just had a tough game against San Francisco, got kind of beat the hell up last year, right? Comes out, lights the Dolphins up, and it's slightly different. But like Justin Herbert doesn't really. There's so much I love about him, and a lot that I'm like, oh, come on, man, like get better. Yeah. But he doesn't put like 2 shitty games together. So the fact that he was very bad by his standards against the Cowboys, and I know he's got a broken non-throw. Like, who cares about? Like, he will be lights out. Like, he will be dialed in. The only thing I need to look at now is the weather, because if it's a shitty Kansas City weather game, then it's like, ugh, all bets are off. Nope, clear skies, 69 degrees.
What scares me, there are 84% of the money and 73% of the tickets on the Chargers right now, which
now scary. I know what that means, but just in case anyone else doesn't, definitely not for me. When you say money versus tickets, maybe just tell the other people what that means.
So when the money is on it, supposedly these are big bettors in Vegas, putting big money on it, the sharps or the sharp, whatever you want to call them, the big gamblers. And then the tickets we would assume are the public. So when there's a lot of tickets but not a lot of money, that usually means it's a pros versus Joes game, right? There are the public betting, and then there are the pros. Now, I don't know if this is where they all agree and they're jumping on it. The line has not moved. They're still taking all the money, only 16% of the money on Kansas City. These games scare me. I have to go back and look, but most of these games where like 95% of the money is on, they do not cover. They might win, but not cover. Right. Like that game last week in San Francisco, I think 98.9% of all the money in tickets were on San Francisco.
Yeah.
So I think that worries me a little. I agree. I think LA is the right side. We could be wrong, but I get it. It all makes sense. It's
and
like
it's a division game. They're nuts, but like
division
historically,
dog.
you have to look at like there's other variables too, but you have to look at like, okay, one team back against the wall, just embarrassed, right? It's the same story of the Cowboys this week, right? Cowboys embarrassed on national TV. They didn't play lights out against the Chargers, but they were definitely more in it. And the Chiefs and Chargers, like, yeah, it's a division rivalry. The Chiefs know the Chargers play them close, but like the Chiefs have been off since Thursday, and also they really aren't scared of the Chargers. And this is the Chargers Super Bowl this week. So getting 6 points, it's like
It's
6 points to a team you've lost to by 6 because of a walk-off overtime touchdown last year. Like, I don't know, man. I that one's easy for me to go. Even though if they lose and don't cover, it's just a double whammy for my heart. But
I love the conviction though. I get it.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me. Like I'm also on it.
The other division game I'm just staying away. We don't need to talk about, but like I want nothing to do with Buffalo at New England at 9 points. Like that to me, I'm just like,
okay.
Even though as good as Buffalo's been, as bad as New England's been, as bad as again, it's like they
But New
beat them in
England
the playoffs by like 30 points, but it's like how many times
New England's a home division dog. They're getting 8.5 points at home.
Is that what you want? You like the home division dogs, huh?
Home division dog is the best bet. You can blindly bet it and do like 65% against
your
the
face
spread.
lit up. Yeah, I could see you're so happy.
It's want
so many points too.
Yeah, it's 8.5 points. Buffalo hasn't been playing that well. I don't know. These games all scare me. Like I could tell you just off the top of my head games I want to play this week. I want to play Indy. I want to play New England. I want to play the Giants. I want to play the only game I'm like undecided on. I don't know what side to take on the Miami Philly game.
That one's a top. That's them basically saying we don't know either. 1.5 points, 2 really good teams. And it's in Philly, right? So they're like, I guess you give the odds to the slightly better defense, but who knows?
I don't know. So I early in the week, I'm like, of course it's Miami. And I'm like, well, maybe Philly, like they're in Philadelphia. Maybe it's gonna rain. Maybe it'll be gross out.
Yeah.
Miami was home for like the last 3 weeks, I think, or something like that. Yeah, a lot of games this week. Like I feel like ugly spreads and teams that you don't want to bet on are a team that you might want to take this week. But my mind changes all like on Saturday night. I'm like, oh, you know what?
I gotta change that. Yeah,
gotta change it. Like Baltimore, Detroit. Beginning of the week, I'm like, yeah, we gotta take Detroit. Then I saw a stat. Lines are 70% against the spread.
I know. I'm feeling Detroit too. Like, but then that's where I gotta look at where I was like, but again, I talked myself out of Detroit last week. I picked the under. I won on the under of that game because it's defenses, but like, and then you look at like Atlanta, Tampa Bay. I guess that's one I'm kind of looking at where I'm like,
okay,
this might be one where Vegas has slipped up because they're like, Tampa Bay just laid a dog at home.
You think Tampa's good?
Tampa's got a real defense, right?
Okay, maybe.
And I know they what was the score last week? It was like 20-6 or something.
They weren't great last week. I wanted to play them too. I don't even know who they played last week. Let me see.
I picked Detroit and then moved my buddy's like, no, man. Anyway, I'm not going to blame him. I'm in charge of my life. Anyway,
blame him.
But like the big difference in the score was like a Jameson Williams bomb, right? Like got behind it. Tampa's got a real defense. They do have a big boy defense. You got to look at the weather, but it's a dome team. Again, that's a division home favorite. It's a divisional game, but like I feel a little bit of the luster of the Falcons is wearing off, right? Like they came out of the gate hot, and now they're kind of like, what's going on with Atlanta?
Well, Atlanta was never a good, like there weren't high hopes, right? They had Bijan in there, like great. You got a great running back. The rest of your team, you're just not doing anything with. They might trade away Kyle Pitts, I think, to maybe somebody if they can away. But yeah, Atlanta's kind of disappointing, but it's a division game. So you got to kind of look at that too. Like basically, I think what Vegas is saying here, you guys are even teams. Possibly. Maybe Tampa's a half point better than you. We'll give you the 2.5 at home and we'll see what happens. And it's a tough week.
It's a tough one, but you're also looking at like New Orleans, where again they kind of got to let down. They've bounced back usually when they've
But
had a loss.
Derek
Derek
Carr is
Carr
so
is
back.
absolutely mid, as the kids say, but
Yeah.
but uh, if you're talking about Tampa Bay, right, who punked New Orleans in New Orleans,
Yeah.
right, because they have a defense, defense travels, and now you're playing against Desmond Ritter. So the real question is like, do you believe in Desmond Ritter, right? Like
Yeah.
how much do you believe in the Falcons offense going, division rival, but going
Hmm.
out there and looking at a team that's like, we just got our asses kicked at home. Are we going to now step up, beat a division rival, have a chance to win the division? Because they beat New Orleans, right? They're the only team
Yeah.
in the division that's beaten New Orleans. So again, that's the stuff I gotta, I'll keep my eye on. But
I know.
it's
Yeah.
tricky
If
week.
I had to make a decision, I would say Atlanta, but I don't know if I'm going to bet this game at all. I think it's like the ugly games I'll probably bet. This one I like. The only reason I like Atlanta, division, like dog, like
You're like, I know you want that fight. You're doing the Chargers thing
yeah,
with
yeah,
Atlanta, and
division dog.
this week definitely makes me believe if there are script writers, as the joke goes. This is one of those because you're like, man, all the games, like
Yeah,
San Francisco and Minnesota, it's Monday, but you got to make those picks early, so you're not going to know like who's on the field for San Francisco. Like
I know.
it's too perfect. And then the rest of the games, I'm looking at our chart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 games under 3 points,
Yeah,
which is essentially like some of them are garbage teams, some of them are good teams. But right, to me, that is Vegas being like, hey, go ahead, flip a coin, like come at me, bro. Like
yeah,
they're putting your feet to the fire, and if you want big lines, you got to stick your neck out on the home division dog.
yeah.
Or
It's gonna be a
is
tough week.
Seattle going to bounce back at home against Arizona? Probably, but like, are they going to beat them by 8 points?
I don't know. They've been a
Yeah,
little, yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know, right?
it's a tough week. I'm glad that you're in it. You're dedicating time. I dedicate a lot of time to it too. You're in. You're doing really good. How are you looking for the quarter? Where are you on the quarter? Oh, you're
Oh,
not. I
quarter,
don't.
I'm horrible for the quarter because I was great. I think I was second or third in the first quarter, and this
Yeah,
quarter I have no chance.
but that's
I gotta
okay
be
though.
I gotta be looking for Q3, and I just gotta start picking up. I just gotta start picking up little wins here and there.
Three and two.
Stop
Go
listening to outside influences, and also I'm not
stick with your
traveling
gut.
this week,
You're good.
so anyone listening to this, you can also wait. You can be like, I should have said this at the top. Maybe wait as if I don't go 3 and 2 this week, even though it's a tricky week, right? Just you'd be like, what is this guy talking about? He doesn't know anything. He thinks he
Three
knows
and two, you
football, but he's
definitely you
lucky.
want to go at least 3 and 2 every week to be like in the running for it.
Yeah,
That's the because even I went like 1-4, 2-3, like those weeks, but I had
yeah,
2 5-0 weeks, which kind of make up for it, which
yeah.
doesn't always happen.
Yeah. The
Um,
sorry, before we
no, no,
wrap,
no.
the
I
only
was
other game that is kind of interesting to me that I'll start doing a little research and digging on, but
okay.
like it's another one, 2 horrible teams, Green Bay at Denver, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I kind of feel like Denver's a worse team though, even though it's in Denver, Mile High, where I'm like, one team looks like a real disaster, the other one's like, we can put a quality team together.
And you're talking about Green Bay.
I'm talking about Green Bay. Neither of them are that impressive, but it's like, well, who do I trust to make adjustments better?
This one's tough too because like Denver at home, I feel like they have a slight edge on it. They're a dog at home. Green Bay, I didn't see like they played Vegas, and I was like, what is this Green Bay team? They are not
Yeah.
good. I'm just staying away from this game altogether. I don't like
Well,
either of them. I don't think Jordan Love, I don't think he's a starting quarterback. I think he'd be a great backup quarterback, comes in for a quarter when your main quarterback gets hurt and he can sling the ball around, do the scripted plays.
yeah.
Once he gets out of the pocket and kind of moves around or tries some stuff, I don't think he's that good. He's been in Green Bay a long time, so it's almost like they have to use him and stick with him. But I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know if he's getting any better. I have a feeling Russell Wilson's going to be benched at some point, and
Right.
they're not sticking with him. It's like, no, we're trying to win games, and Russ is out, and he
Yeah.
might be out soon. So
Is this the game? Right. But this is one that's fun. I'm not saying I'm going to go for it, but
I
it's
know.
totally interesting to me because you look at that and you're like, Vegas has no idea either. Right, like, so you're
Yeah.
like it's like, for me, I might go back, I might watch a little tape on these
Ooh.
teams
Oh, wow.
just to
Some
be
tape. You're
like,
gonna go NFL. What's that
got
NFL
NFL
website?
Plus, man, I got the
Yeah.
NFL Plus, I can go rewatch it, you can see and you can be like, "Okay," because that's the other thing, right? That's the other thing where you go, in fantasy, I used to do that before they started tracking targets. Like
Mm,
you should watch the games and go, wait a minute, there was a penalty called on this, so
yeah.
the play doesn't exist, but like that wide receiver is amazing, and you could find steals like that. So like if you're actually willing to watch games, you can go, oh, this team is actually really bad, or right, oh, this team's in a rough spot, but they're doing good things.
Yeah.
And that's like, but again, you know, it is very time consuming and
Yeah.
maybe not worth it. But in a week like this, I don't know.
Well, this is what I'm hoping. At the end of the year, we'll see who the best is. And what I would love, this is like my dream. At
Yeah.
the end of the year, the top like 5 guys in the league, next year we all go and buy 2 to 3 entries into the actual super contest. And we actually go and try to make these picks every single week. It's harder than you think because
As
you have to
as a
do it.
consortium, like as a brain trust,
Yeah.
you mean? Oh,
We
interesting.
are, yeah, we're now a syndicate, a gambling syndicate. I do this with my buddy Tony. We do it,
Yeah.
and we have a joint gambling account online where we make bets every week and we put things
You're gambling,
together.
you're
Yeah.
gambling life partners. We have a joint account. We've merged our finance.
But this is like we would get the proxy. So like the top 5 guys. I mean, right now it's like I feel like
There's a
it's
there's a big
you,
log jam.
yeah, Gambling Goose, Sneaky Pete, the other guy Rap. Like they're all very good, but I want to see at the end of the year who the
Let's
top 5 guys are. See if they're
mm,
interested in doing it.
that's
Because
interesting.
right now, the 2 guys in first, 22-8. I don't know what odds that is, but they must be over 80% picking right now, or 70% picking, something
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
you're about 70. Yeah, 22 out of 30. That's you're looking at 3. It's just about 70%. Might be
Yeah,
69.
and that's insane. And if he can keep that up the entire season, that will be great. But if he like these numbers, if you're doing it in the contest and you're even in the top 100, you're getting paid out 20, 30 grand just to be in the top 100. You're getting paid $1 million to be
I
in
love this.
first place.
That's what I'm playing for now, is to be part of the
Yeah. So
consortium.
yeah, top 5, we'll all make it. Hopefully I'm in the top 5 so I actually can
Yeah.
have some.
Aren't there? But there's some people. Didn't you say on a pod earlier that like there
Yeah.
are some people in the lead that you don't even know? Like you're not even sure who this. Like you
Well,
have
yeah,
no
they're like friends
friends
of
of
friends. So
friends.
like the 2 top people are friends of friends in the league, which it's just like they scoped this out
Sharks.
and found some,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
easy pickings. But
Yeah.
the rest of the guys I know, there's just like 3 in the league that I don't know, and happens to be 2 of them are doing great. So
Okay.
good for them. But I appreciate you coming on the pod. Hopefully people got some good insights this week. Still, I'm looking for somebody with like an Excel data sheet that they can share with me so I can actually know. Like if anybody's good at Excel, I want to build a database and run all the
Oh,
numbers where you're like, hey Josh, could you look up how many targets Kyle Pitts had over the last 4 years to tell me like
I mean, it's got to be out there somewhere, right? Isn't that like Musehead or AWS? I'm sure there's
no,
database like that. How far back would you go? How many seasons do you want to go
I
back?
think you go until like whatever they qualify as the current day NFL where they changed well, wow, look at that.
Oh
I
wow!
have my
Did
Apple
you
my
just
Apple
trigger?
thing
You
on.
just
Yeah.
triggered
I guess that just triggered something. I guess whatever the modern day NFL is. So I don't know if that's like
mm,
2013, 14, somewhere around there. Maybe you could go back 10 years. But it's what I've heard. I've listened to people talk about their data sheets,
yeah.
and you basically have to get a whole bunch of data, clean it, and then model it out and see how close it is week to what's coming. And if it can predict, basically, it's predicting the scores of the game. Like a lot of
Whoa.
guys I listen to will say, "Oh yeah, we had Seahawks, Cincinnati. We had Seahawks winning by 7 points in this game, and they lost by whatever 4 or 5
Right.
or something." Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that's when it gets. That's to me when it gets a little crazy, and you start again. You can
you
get bit.
a predicting model.
Well, you're doing a predicting model, but you get bit by that like any given Sunday bug where you go, yeah, this team shouldn't have won, and there's always variables you can't control.
Yeah,
So I think it's cool. I guess it's nice, but it's kind of a hey, okay. This is a final anecdote. It
yeah,
was like being in Vegas, right? Where uh I decided this week in blackjack, I was like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna try doing some just like by the book stuff, like full on
great. Yeah,
chart
Hit
just
on
be fully
16.
robotic.
Yeah.
And I think that had probably an 80%
Mm-hmm.
failure rate for me. Like
Wow.
every time where my gut was going like, this is weird, like the patterns I'm seeing, and also this doesn't feel. And then I would
Yeah.
check like the book, check reference in my mind, be like, what does the book say? And I'm like, this is pushing it. This is like,
It's
uh,
tough.
and then, but if you're willing to like do that, I guess if you're willing to build a model and then do it for like years and years and be like, it doesn't matter when I win or lose. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to win 51% of the time so that way
Yeah.
I make some profit.
Yeah. That's all you need.
Yeah, that's true. That's all you need. I don't know if it's very fun.
It's not as fun, but it almost makes it where if you're doing it right, and this model can hit you at a 65% rate, and you're betting enough to where it's like worth it. I think
Mm,
that's kind of the big thing. And especially when you're betting individual games where you're like,
right.
oh, my model said this is the best one of the week. I'm just going to put a ton of money on it. And maybe you're up, 100 units just that week. And that, make all the money. That
Yeah,
it's
I mean
tough.
that's
It's
tough.
really
That's a
hard.
great system, and I guess that's why, yeah, you could do it. For me, at a certain point, I'm like, well, this is why I prefer to, you know, trade stock options because there's a lot less. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's a
I
lot
know.
easier to just be like, oh, this is where the news is going. I can move against it. But not as
Yeah, it's
fun. It's not
tough.
as fun playing options as it is playing in the NFL.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. This is
Thank
a
you so
great
much.
pod. Everybody go check out the sportshangover.com. We got winter swag up there, a lot of stuff going on.
Buy
Josh, I
some merch.
appreciate it. Yes, I appreciate it. I maybe I'll have it come back on around like Thanksgiving. I have a lot of great Thanksgiving stats, Thanksgiving
Ooh,
Day stats, like a ton of road faves,
oh,
touchdown
fun.
fave, a lot of trending stats since 2005. So we've put together a whole bunch of stats for us. But
So you do have the model, but it's only for Thanksgiving.
I have stats we've collected over the last few years. I would say
Yeah.
5 years, but a lot of them are no longer like active. Like I don't think Bet with Bill week 1, Bill Belichick is
Mm,
still active anymore. I think that was only with Tom Brady. So we might
no.
have to remove that one. That was just, they might not be stats. They're just like, go do this. This is going to work. All
Oh
right. Thanks
wow.
for coming on.
All right,
Good show,
bud.
guys. See ya.
See ya.